Imagine this. The Earth is thawing. Slowly but surely, ice that's held its secrets for millennia is starting to give way. And what does it reveal? Not just bones or fossils, but whole creatures. Intact, preserved, frozen in time like nature's own time machine. From woolly mammoths to ancient bison, from prehistoric puppies to a mythical unicorn that actually existed. These aren't just tales from long ago, they're real, and they've been locked beneath layers of permafrost for thousands of years. Their stories are now spilling out as the ice melts, showing us a world that once was, and maybe offering us a glimpse of what's to come. We're diving into 7 of the wildest permafrost discoveries, creatures that walked, roamed, and maybe even ran alongside our distant ancestors. They were frozen in an instant, and now, after tens of thousands of years, they're finally emerging. Let's meet these ancient beings and see what their icy tombs have preserved. This is where science meets prehistory and the past comes alive. All right, buckle up because the story of the Yucca mammoth is like stepping into a time machine. Only you don't know if you're going to uncover treasure or get haunted by a prehistoric ghost. So, it's 2010 in Siberia, far away from anything that remotely resembles civilization, and a group of local mammoth hunters stumbles upon something that's straight out of a science fiction flick. Beneath layers of permafrost, they find Yucca, a young woolly mammoth who had been frozen for nearly 40,000 years. Now, most mammoth discoveries are just bones, right? But Yucca was different. Her fur, still there. Her skin, amazingly intact. Her muscles, perfectly preserved, like she just took a nap in the snow and never woke up. Even her strawberry blonde hair, yes, really, had somehow survived the brutal grasp of time. But here's where it gets really wild. Upon closer inspection, researchers noticed something off about Yucca's body. There were strange cuts on her skin that didn't look like the work of another predator. These were precise, deliberate, suggesting that humans, ancient hunters from tens of thousands of years ago, might have been the ones to track and take her down. Imagine that for a second. People, not so different from you and me, may have stalked this massive, majestic beast across the endless frozen tundra and made her their prize. Yet, it's not just her condition that turns heads. It's the fact that Yucca raises all these questions. How did she die? Did she fall victim to a trap set by Ice Age hunters, or did nature freeze her in place before they could finish the job? Why was her body left so intact, as if it had been forgotten mid-process? Scientists believe that early humans might have had a hand in her death, but the mystery is far from solved. And here's a fun, slightly terrifying thought. Because Yucca's body is so well preserved, scientists have speculated about something straight out a sci-fi novel, using her DNA to bring mammoths back to life. Yeah, real-life Jurassic Park stuff, but with mammoths stomping around instead of T-Rexes. Whether we actually see woolly mammoths walking around again remains to be seen, but Yucca's discovery has already rewritten parts of history and may very well shape the future. So, Yucca isn't just a frozen mammoth. She's a connection to a world where humans and mammoths crossed paths, where ancient hunters roamed the wild tundras, and where the earth itself became a vault, locking away secrets in ice for us to eventually find. Yucca is the past frozen in flesh, reminding us that nature sometimes holds on to its stories for just the right moment to reveal them. All right, so get this. The frozen ground of Siberia isn't just a treasure trove of ancient creatures, it's also hiding something a lot more unsettling. Imagine a place where time doesn't just stand still, but presses pause on life itself. Buried deep in the permafrost, scientists found something that feels like the plot of a sci-fi thriller, a 30,000-year-old virus. And of course, because scientists love a challenge, they decided to thaw it out. The virus, Pithovirus sibericum, sounds ominous, right? Wasn't just frozen in some microscopic tomb. It was enormous, at least for a virus so big that you could actually see it under a regular microscope. This thing had been stuck in a deep freeze since mammoths were stomping around and early humans were still figuring out how to use fire. But here's the kicker. When they revived it, the virus sprang back to life, like it had been taking the world's longest nap. Now, before you panic, this ancient virus only infects amoebas, not humans. So we're safe for now, or so we think. But what makes this story wild is the potential it opens up. If this virus could survive for tens of thousands of years and come back to life like nothing happened, what else is down there, just waiting to be uncovered? Think about it. The permafrost is melting, and as the ice retreats, it's not just mammoth bones and ancient plants emerging. It's organisms that haven't seen the light of day since long before humans even thought about civilization. This discovery was both mind-blowing and a little terrifying because it hints at the possibility that the permafrost is a Pandora's box of frozen pathogens. And it's not like this is some far-off, distant threat. As the world warms up, the possibility of ancient diseases being released into the modern world feels less like a plotline from the X-Files and more like a real-life concern. The thawing permafrost is like nature's forgotten petri dish, where viruses, bacteria, and other tiny relics of the past could wake up and come crashing into our reality. So, the discovery of Pithovirus sibericum isn't just about one ancient virus coming back to life. It's a reminder of how fragile the boundary between past and present really is. What else is sleeping beneath the ice, and when will it wake up? All right, let's talk about the Yukagir bison, which sounds like the name of a mythical creature from some ancient legend, but in reality, it's one of the best preserved Ice Age animals we've ever found. This bison wasn't just frozen in time, it was practically mummified by the permafrost, which, as it turns out, makes a pretty excellent freezer. So when scientists found this beast in the tundra of Yakutia, Russia, it was like they'd stumbled on a four-legged fossil with the cheat code for immortality. Now, this bison had been stuck in ice for over 9,000 years, which is a long time even by Ice Age standards. But here's the kicker. It was so well preserved that researchers could literally study its internal organs. We're talking about lungs, heart, digestive system, all intact like they had just stopped working yesterday. It's one thing to dig up some bones, but to have a fully preserved creature with muscles, skin, and even fur, that's a different ballgame. Scientists got a rare glimpse into the life of a creature from a time when humans were barely getting their act together, and these massive bison were roaming around like they owned the place. This particular bison, though, wasn't living its best life when it died. It looked like it had starved, which is kind of tragic. But in a weird way, that same brutal fate preserved it for millennia. The Yukagir bison wasn't just a cool archaeological find. It was like opening a time capsule to a world we've barely scratched the surface of. Studying this bison allowed scientists to compare it with modern bison and get a clearer picture of how animals adapted to the harsh conditions of the Ice Age. It's a glimpse into an ancient ecosystem, one that has long since disappeared, and it tells us something about how life and death worked in a frozen world. But beyond the science, the Yukagir bison feels like a messenger from the past. Frozen there, waiting for the ice to finally release it, like it knew that one day, thousands of years later, we'd be standing here, staring into its eyes, trying to understand the world it came from. And maybe, just maybe, it's giving us a warning about what happens when the world freezes and thaws in ways we can't always control. All right, so here's a story that feels like it crawled out of the ice to blow our minds. The frozen Kolyma woolly rhinoceros. Yeah, a woolly rhino. As if woolly mammoths weren't already wild enough, now we're throwing ancient, furry rhinos into the mix. In 2020, deep in the Russian tundra near the Kolyma River, scientists uncovered this incredible creature. And it wasn't just some pile of bones. No. This woolly rhinoceros, preserved in the permafrost for anywhere between 20 to 50,000 years, was a legit masterpiece of natural preservation. It had fur, it had hooves, it even had intestines still hanging around like it had just been flash frozen mid-stride. You could practically imagine it wandering across the frozen plains only to be suddenly stopped in its tracks by time itself. Frozen in place, frozen in history. Now, this wasn't the first time we've found ancient rhinos in Siberia, but none of them had been preserved like this. The level of detail was insane. Its coat was still there, and researchers even discovered traces of what it had last eaten, like some ancient cold storage meal left untouched for thousands of years. It's like the Kolyma rhino wanted to leave us a postcard from its era. One with an unsettling message. Here's what life used to be like before the ice locked us all away. The discovery of the Kolyma rhino opens the door to something even crazier. We're talking about de-extinction. Yep, you heard that right. Some scientists are genuinely thinking about whether we can use the DNA from animals like this woolly rhino to bring them back. Sound familiar? Cue the Jurassic Park theme song. But instead of T-Rexes, imagine woolly rhinos charging around again. Now, there's something both fascinating and a little haunting about that idea. Because while we're marveling at how perfectly preserved these ancient creatures are, the reason we're finding them in such incredible condition is that the permafrost is thawing. The ice that's been hiding this prehistoric treasure chest is melting. And that, of course, leads to the big question: what else is going to come out of the ice? And are we really ready for what it might reveal? The Kolyma woolly rhinoceros is more than just an ancient animal frozen in time. It's a glimpse into a world that's long gone, but maybe not as far away as we think. And as the ice keeps retreating, we're left wondering, what's next? Because if a furry rhino can survive in that deep freeze for all those millennia, what else might still be waiting just beneath the ice? All right, let me take you to the frozen tundras of Siberia, specifically to a place called Tumat. It's a spot so cold and remote that time itself seems to have gotten lost there. And in this icebox of a landscape, something almost too incredible to believe was discovered. Puppies. Yes, ancient, perfectly preserved Ice Age puppies. The first discovery was made in 2011. Then in 2015, another puppy was found. Like the ice just decided to casually hand over one more piece of history. These weren't just any pups, though. They were from a species of dog that had been lying frozen for over 12,000 years. And when I say frozen, I mean frozen. These little guys still had their fur, their teeth, even their whiskers. Their bodies were so intact, it was almost like they could wag their tails if you just warmed them up a bit. Scientists were floored. Here were two puppies, barely over a few weeks old when they died, preserved so well that researchers could even examine their stomach contents. It's like they were flash frozen in time, stuck in the middle of the Ice Age, only to be thawed out in our modern world. The biggest question? What happened to them? Why were they so perfectly preserved? Some think they might have been buried in a landslide, while others suggest they simply fell victim to the harsh conditions of their environment. Whatever the cause, the ice locked them in like a natural time capsule, preserving their little bodies for millennia. But the real kicker? These puppies could be the missing link in understanding the ancient bond between humans and dogs. The domestication story, still a bit foggy, might have started right here. Maybe these pups weren't just wild creatures roaming the tundra. Maybe they were part of early humans' lives, ancestors of the modern dogs we know today. It's a theory that still has scientists digging deeper, trying to unravel just how far back our friendship with canines really goes. And of course, there's the possibility that these ancient puppies hold secrets. Just like with other frozen discoveries, there's talk about whether their DNA could help us learn more about the evolution of dogs, or even, brace yourself, whether we could one day resurrect some ancient species through cloning. That's a whole other sci-fi road we might not be ready to walk down just yet. In the end, the Tumat puppies are more than just a cute story from the Ice Age. They're a testament to how little we know about the deep bond between humans and animals, and how much the ice still has to teach us. They remind us that even in the coldest, most unforgiving places, life found a way. And when the ice gives it back to us, we're left staring into the past. A past we might be more connected to than we ever realized. All right, imagine this. You're in Siberia, once again, where the ground is frozen solid. It's like nature decided to hit the pause button thousands of years ago. And under all that ice, just waiting, is a little surprise. A surprise buried by a squirrel. In 2012, Russian scientists stumbled on a hidden stash. A seed, frozen in time for over 30,000 years. This wasn't just any seed, though. It was tucked away inside a squirrel's burrow, hacked like a lunchbox left behind and forgotten. Now, this Ice Age squirrel never came back to claim it, but the frozen ground kept its stash perfectly preserved. What happened next is where things get interesting. The scientists didn't just marvel at the discovery, they did something unexpected. They planted it, and it grew. Think about that. A seed buried by a squirrel tens of thousands of years ago was brought back to life. It sprouted into a plant called Silene stenophylla, something that hadn't existed on Earth since the Ice Age. This wasn't just a fossil, it was a living, breathing organism that had returned from a prehistoric slumber. And it didn't just survive, it thrived. Flowering just like any other plant, but with roots stretching back to an ancient world. This tiny forgotten seed opened a window into the past. It showed us what plants were like in a time long before agriculture, long before humans started messing with nature on a large scale. Scientists were able to study its genetic makeup, and what they found was a glimpse into the resilience of life. Even after being frozen for so long, this little seed had the strength to come back. The medieval squirrel's lunchbox is more than just a quirky story. It's a reminder of how much the permafrost holds, of how deep the connection between life and the earth runs. The fact that a seed buried by a tiny creature could survive through millennia of ice and cold, only to bloom again, shows us that time isn't as rigid as we think. All right, let's talk about a creature that sounds straight out of a myth, the Siberian unicorn. It's not the magical horned horse you're imagining. This was something much bigger, much more real. The Siberian unicorn, or Elasmotherium, was a massive rhino-like beast that roamed the grasslands of Eurasia. It had a single, huge horn on its forehead, and unlike the delicate unicorns of legend, this thing was built like a tank, standing 6 feet tall at the shoulder, weighing close to 4 tons. It wasn't a creature to be taken lightly. For years, scientists thought these massive animals had gone extinct long before humans even appeared. But then, the permafrost gave us another surprise. A skull, perfectly preserved, unearthed in the Siberian steppe. And this skull wasn't millions of years old like they had thought. It was only a few thousand years old. This meant that the Siberian unicorn didn't vanish in some distant prehistoric age. It walked the earth at the same time as early humans. It was real. And it was around when our ancestors were carving tools from stone. Now, this beast wasn't some lumbering brute. It was fast, agile, built to outrun predators and survive in a world that was cold and unforgiving. Its horn, that's still a mystery. Scientists aren't sure exactly how it was used. It could have been for defense, or maybe to dig through snow and ice in search of food. Either way, it gave the Siberian unicorn an almost legendary presence in the Ice Age landscape. But like so many others, it couldn't outrun time. The Earth's climate changed. The grasslands it relied on began to shrink, and slowly these creatures faded away, leaving behind only bones and questions. When that skull was found in the permafrost, it didn't just change what we thought we knew about this creature. It reminded us that the world these animals lived in isn't as far removed from us as we like to think. Early humans might have even seen this animal, watched it cross the plains. Maybe they passed down stories about it, stories that eventually became the legend of the unicorn. The Siberian unicorn wasn't a myth. It was real. And its bones, locked in the permafrost, have a lot more to tell us about a time when the world was colder, wilder, and full of creatures we're only just beginning to understand. As we delve into the stories hidden beneath the icy layers of permafrost, a remarkable tapestry of life unfolds. These tales, from the woolly mammoth to the ancient viruses, from the Yukagir bison to the Tumat puppies, remind us of the delicate balance of ecosystems long gone. Each discovery is a testament to resilience, to survival, to a world that existed before ours. The frozen ground is more than just a storage unit for bones and seeds. It is a time capsule that challenges our understanding of history. These creatures roamed the earth alongside early humans, leaving behind clues about their lives, their struggles, and their eventual disappearance. Each find is a whisper from the past, urging us to listen closely. As we confront the realities of climate change and melting permafrost, we must recognize the significance of these stories. They are not just remnants of an ancient world. They serve as a reminder of what we stand to lose. Each thaw reveals not only the past, but also the consequences of our present actions. To continue exploring these fascinating tales and uncovering more stories from the depths of time, consider subscribing. Join a community that seeks to understand our shared history and the lessons it offers. Let's keep the conversation going. Together, we can delve deeper into the mysteries of our planet and honor the stories that time has preserved.